Thanks for joining us. I'm Rusty Sommer, Managing Director of Strategic Partners at Flyer Financial. And today I'm joined by my good friend Erkko Etula. Welcome.
Thanks, Rusty.
Yeah, good to be here. It's a lot of fun. Great conference and a lot of excitement here. I think one of the interesting things that I think about when I think about Brooklyn and the marketplaces that you're working with, there's a massive transfer of generational wealth right now. And there are different ways that people can go about delivering that. Talk to us a little bit about how, successful firms are delivering differentiated advice to their next generation clients.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about the next generation, the millennials and the Gen Z, is that they demand personalization, right? So from a financial advisor's perspective, the cookie cutter approach of bucketing clients into conservative, moderate, aggressive portfolios and wishing them luck doesn't cut it anymore. That doesn't create any engagement. Right? So the advisor basically needs to figure out how to deliver that personalization, tax efficiency at a scale,
right,
while not increasing costs.
Yep. No, I completely get that. And when I think about that, one of the things I think about when you think differentiated or custom or unique to your clients is that comes with additional effort. So one of the things that I think about is historically, advisors typically have kind of tapped out, call it 275 client accounts, maybe 300 with new technology. So are you necessarily thinking about serving fewer clients, or are there ways to scale, and what are successful firms doing in order to scale up to deliver this differentiated advice?
So basically the advisor needs to figure out how to serve the different parts of their advice in the most efficient way to the end client, right? So if you kind of just look at a client's portfolio, there's the liquid part and then there's the alternatives.
Okay.
And then the other advisory services and trust and estate planning, access to certain deals, that's kind of the whole package. And what we're hearing from advisors is that management of the liquid portfolio is taking a disproportionate amount of time.
Right.
So the stocks, the bonds, the ETFs, the mutual funds, which ultimately are different flavors of beta, right? How do you serve that part of the portfolio in a personalized way to each client while making it also tax efficient,
okay,
and making it cost efficient?
Yeah.
So at Brooklyn, we call that operational alpha. So basically, the advisor needs to do less of those operational tasks and pass them on to the sub-advisor and, frankly, the operational partners of the sub-advisor that really enable that operational scale, that then enable the advisor scale.
Right. So I love the idea of operational alpha and being able to get scale. I think that sometimes firms might find that switch in their mind to be a little bit challenging to initially take on. So maybe give some examples of how some firms are using that to scale and what it means to their business.
So many firms today sort of have this, I would call it a mixture of SMA managers, ETFs, mutual funds. They probably have an in-house rebalancer or a bunch of Excel spreadsheets where they try to figure out where to put the cash inflows, where to take the outflows from in order to remain in balance while basically being tax efficient. Now, that's a lot of sort of mental math and sort of Excel math for the advisors and their teams. So that portion should basically be pushed to the sub-advisor, whereby within a single custodian account, the advisor can manage those multiple sleeves, the direct indexing to equities, right? That's US, non-US. Maybe there's an ETF sleeve.
Okay.
You can put municipal bond ladders as part of that same account structure.
Gotcha.
Now, all of a sudden, you're talking about the entire liquid portfolio, personalized, and personalization, I'm not talking about just simple exclusions, but things like, a client might have a concentrated position.
Okay.
They want to sell it down in a tax neutral way, right? Maybe they want some customization in their municipal bond ladders, right? So these are the kind of additional layers of personalization differentiation, which will frankly create engagement in the end client, and being able to serve them in that single custodian account, multiple sleeves, means that the advisor doesn't lose the ability to report on those individual strategies on asset classes, but they're able to get rid of that operational burden of, calling one SMA manager here to rebalance the portfolio, moving assets or money to another SMA manager. So that's the part. So the rebalancing, the movement of money, movement of cash, that really takes a toll on the advisor, and you can get rid of all that.
I think advisors often overlook the opportunity around tax alpha. They don't understand it. They don't know how to implement it. They may not even know how to talk to their clients about it. And without some level of technology, it's almost, I would say, impossible to implement in a scalable, effective, and meaningful way. We see in the marketplace certain securities every year over the course of years who have incredible run-ups. And I think maybe that would be a good use case or an example for how Brooklyn handles that for their clients. Somebody has 90% of their portfolio that's in this appreciated stock. Like, what do they do?
Yeah. So that's where we're kind of taking the sort of the traditional concept of tax loss harvesting, where you start with an all cash or some securities portfolio, and you transition that to some index, and then you keep loss harvesting. That's kind of like tax loss harvesting 1.0, right? Now, the real sort of dilemmas for the advisors arise when they're prospecting a client who, like you said, might have like 90% of their wealth in, say, concentrated NVIDIA position, right? With a nearly zero cost basis, right? So what are you going to do about that, right? So there are some new techniques that direct indexing can basically do to help diversify that concentrated position in a tax efficient way, right? The way it basically works is, well, if a client has a smaller amount in that concentrated position, then sort of traditional tax loss harvesting, where say like 80% of the portfolio, you can generate enough tax losses to offset the gains in that concentrated position and gradually sell it down. And we do that in an automated way. The other newer way of doing things is, if the client has the 90% in the concentrated stock, then the remaining 10% will not be enough to generate those tax losses. So what we can do is to generate a long-short extension, where basically the client can use that 90% of their wealth in that NVIDIA position as collateral, and we run a long-short loss harvesting portfolio on top of that. Now, that supercharges the loss harvesting power and really is able to rapidly diminish the exposure to that concentrated stock.
Right. That's crazy interesting. So last question, and I think this is a thematic question with a little bit of tactical stuff at the end. So thematically, I think that as technology improves, advisors are getting more and more control. And so where maybe an advisor had leaned on or utilized more model-based strategies, they might be transitioning to being a little bit more actively involved. How do you put this overlay on top of that active management, where an advisor may be choosing securities and maybe not just choosing model portfolios?
Yeah, so you're referring to the kind of the rep as a PM advisors. They're maybe running their 40 stock concentrated growth portfolio, and that's their differentiation. Now, a lot of people would say that, well, that cannot really be tax loss harvested, but that's not true. We're actually working not only with rep as a PM advisors, but also with active asset managers who are basically trying to convert their active concentrated stock portfolios into tax managed versions, right? So basically, the asset manager may be going from a mutual fund to a tax managed SMA. The rep as a PM is going from their kind of hand traded concentrated stock portfolio to a tax managed version of that. And so basically what the rep can do is they can feed us their model. It may change as frequently as they like to change it. And either they give us a list of replacement securities that didn't quite make it to the portfolio, or they just say, look, you can replace from the benchmark index, the broader index that they're tracking. And we can run a tax law overlay on that, which can be tremendously powerful. And in addition, we can integrate that strategy as part of the client's total portfolio. So all of a sudden, everything is gelling together. You have your equities with the active sleeves and the passive sleeves. You have the fixed income. You may have another sleeve of ETFs. So it's all coming together. And what is more, we can also report on the performance, both on a pre-tax as well as on an after-tax basis.
Thanks to Erkko from Brooklyn Investment Group. I'm Rusty Sommer. Thanks for watching.